Hello everybody. Today we're going to continue our work with fractions and we're going to take a look at what happens when we have a fraction that's greater than one whole or more than one whole. So I want you to imagine this scenario that I've brought 2 oranges for lunch today. And I'm going to cut each orange into fourths so I can eat them more easily. So I want to think about how we would represent this visually. So we would draw 2 circles, right? One, and I'm going to actually make another copy of this, whoops, so that I have them the same. 2, I have 2 oranges, and I said I cut them into fourths so that I could eat them easily. So I'm going to break my oranges into fourths and show how I've cut my 2 oranges into fourths, okay? And if I want to, I can even label each part, right? Each part here is 1/4 of a whole orange. Now, you'll notice that I have more than just 4 pieces, don't I? I have 8 pieces, in fact, but I have more than one orange, right? So in one whole orange, I have 4 fourths because I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths. 4 fourths is another way of saying 1 whole. In my other orange, I also have 4 fourths, right? Because remember, it was 2 separate oranges. If I asked you how many fourths I have all together, we could simply count them. If I take my green highlighter, we can count 1/4, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, 4 fourths, 5 fourths, 6 fourths, 7 fourths, 8 fourths. Now the reason this is 8 fourths is because our unit is fourths, because each whole orange was split into 4 pieces. It's going to be very tempting to say that you have eighths and that you have 8 eighths because you have 8 pieces. But remember that our denominator represents how many parts in one whole, not how many parts in 2 wholes. So because we said that I broke my orange into fourths, that's the unit we're going to use, which is fourths. If I shaded, let's say I ate 6 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I asked you, how much did I eat? What fraction of my oranges did I eat? I could count those parts. I can say 1/4, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, 4 fourths, 5 fourths, 6 fourths. And therefore, I have eaten 6 fourths. Oops, I wrote 6 eighths. 6 fourths because each orange was split into 4 parts. I could represent that in a number bond like this. 6 fourths is the same thing as 1/4 and 1/4 and 1/4 and 1/4 and 1/4 and 1/4 because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fourths because each orange was broken into 4 pieces. Let's take a look at another one where it's not a circle. Let's take a look at a rectangle. Let's say I have 2 candy bars. And we'll say that they're Milky Ways because I really love Milky Ways. So let's say I decided to break my candy bar into thirds. So think about that. I said I'm going to break it into thirds. How many parts am I going to break each candy bar into? 3 parts, right? Thirds means I'm going to break each candy bar into 3 parts. Not both of them into a total of 3 parts, but each candy bar gets broken into 3 parts because we're talking about thirds. So I can label each one of my parts as 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Now let's say I decided to eat this much of my candy bar. What fraction of my candy bars have I eaten? Well, I can count, right? I can go 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3. I have eaten 4/3 of my candy bars because I know I've split my candy bars into 3 parts. Each whole candy bar, each whole rectangle has been broken into 3 equal parts, and I have shaded or eaten 4 of those equal parts. Okay, does that kind of make sense? 4/3 is equal to 1 whole and 1/3. Okay, let's take a look at one more. What if I have more than 2 wholes? Oh my goodness. Let's say I have 1, 2, 3 granola bars. And maybe I decide to break each granola bar into fifths. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So I've broken each granola bar into fifths, which means each granola bar has 5 equal parts. And I can say that each part is 1/5. Right? Each part is 1/5. And if you need to label it like this so that it makes sense for you on your assignment, please do that. It is helpful, even though it does take some time. Now let's say I ate this much of my granola bars. I ate this granola bar, I ate this granola bar, and then I ate this much of my other granola bar. Let's count how many fifths. Remember, we know we're going to be having fifths on our bottom. We know 5 is going to be in a denominator because that's our unit. So now let's see how many fifths I've eaten. I've eaten 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've eaten 12 fifths because I have 12 parts shaded and each whole has been broken into 5 equal parts. So again, just remembering the top number means how many are we talking about? How many are shaded? How many were eaten? How many were given away? How many were used? And the bottom number just represents how many parts has the whole been broken into. Okay? For your assignment today, you're going to be given some shapes that have been broken into equal parts, into unit fractions, fifths, fourths, thirds, sixths, eighths. And I want you to identify the unit fraction. So in this case, our unit fraction is 1/5 because each part is 1/5 of a granola bar. Up here, our unit fraction would have been 1/3 because each part of that candy bar was broken into 1/3 or into thirds. And for our orange example, our unit fraction would have been 1/4 because our oranges were each broken up into fourths. So you'll identify the unit fraction for each picture. You're going to identify how many of those parts have been shaded. In this case, that would be 12. And then you're going to write the fraction that's shaded. So you're going to think about how many are shaded out of how many parts each whole is broken into. And you can look at your unit fraction to figure out what your unit is. In this case, fifths. Okay? You are also then going to be asked to create your own tape diagram. So if I asked you to show me something like 7/3, you would do something like this. We're going to have our unit fraction. Oops, not our unit fraction. Sorry, we're going to have our rectangle and another rectangle. And I'm going to actually change this to 5/3, so we only have to deal with 2 of them. And you're going to look right here. Thirds is going to tell you how many parts do you break each whole into. So this case, I'm going to break each whole into thirds, 3 equal parts. I'm going to shade 5 of them because we're talking about 5/3. So I'm going to shade 5 of these. And then how would I write that as a number? I would write it as 5/3 because 5 of the thirds are shaded. And I think I would like to see you label those unit fractions here. so that I really know that you understand that you're working with thirds or fourths or fifths. Okay? So, go ahead and give your assignment a try. Let me know if you need any help. Come back to the video if you need to. Just remember the bottom number is how many parts is each whole broken into. The top number represents how many parts are shaded or how many parts we're talking about. Good luck and have